Cynthia Wall. What a great pleasure talking to Cynthia. Incredible woman, 77 years old. We opened up the conversation with she was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and what she's doing with it now. She's completely appears to be healthy. She's on a lot of medication, but she's thriving and doing well with it. It was found by accident. She wrote a great book, The Courage to Trust. We talk a lot about trust and what it means. We do talk about her husband and how he died and how she was able to help in that very, very interesting journey that discussion is. But just wonderful, wonderful woman with such insight, such energy. We talk, of course, a lot about discipline and her perspective on it. And she's clean and sober, no sweets as well, but just really engaging woman. I loved every moment of it. I look forward to one day having a cup of tea with her. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz, and here's my 45-second introduction. After starting my business in the 90s, I started developing poor habits of eating in my diet because of working way too much. Before you know it, I found myself 340 pounds. The doctor told me if I don't lose the weight, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate. Took the next 7 months, lost 130 pounds. People think there's some secret. Ask me, how'd you lose that weight? Like there's some secret. There is no secret. How'd I lose the weight? Just one word, discipline. I've had other successes in life, and I attribute them all to discipline. Now, I'm not the king of discipline, but I believe that it can help all of us. Friends, colleagues convinced me to start a podcast. The podcast mission? How do we better ourselves and society? I talk to interesting people in health, fitness, sport, wellness, business, technology, science, art, and culture. And I eventually ask them how discipline plays a role in their life. Podcast vision, growth through learning from others. I want to talk to you, Miss Cynthia Wall. I appreciate your time. You said you like to make beads. Explain that.
I bead.
Use it as a
I do
verb.
beads.
I
I
say.
I make these. It's my little. I call them meditation bracelets because it takes a meditation of a couple hours to make them, and it's a meditation to put them on, and it's a meditation to take them off. It's sort of a.
Huh.
And I am a person of I don't know, a lot of curiosity, a lot of I've always been. I When I was a little kid, I think I identified as little Cynthia who wanted to help people, and I don't think I've ever been different than that.
Hmm.
So
You
that and ended up as social work, but I was also a hippie and I was a wild and crazy girl, and I got to have I'm a clean and sober girl,
Yes.
and I've quit a lot of stuff, and that's a part of the discipline and the engagement. I lost 45 pounds on Weight Watchers in
Wow.
2000. I'm back on it now just because with all of my health conditions, losing another 10 pounds might help my heart.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm on 17 or 18 prescription medications at this
Wow.
point. The main thing is the oral chemo that I take.
In this fast-paced MSP landscape, how do you stay ahead? Introducing MSPinfluencer.com, your ultimate hub for MSP news, insights, and community connection powered by Forza Dash. More than 75,000 MSPs subscribe to our MSP Influencer Pulse weekly newsletter, staying informed and ahead of industry trends. Tune in to emerging podcasts from Joey Pinz and leading MSP voices, offering essential tips, powerful insights, and success stories. Explore our multi-authored blogs, crafted specifically for MSP leaders, delivering fresh perspectives and actionable strategies. Celebrate excellence with the industry-leading Forza-MSP Influencer Awards, recognizing innovation, leadership, and impact in the MSP community. Join thousands of MSP professionals who trust MSPinfluencer.com to grow their business and expand their networks. MSPinfluencer.com, where today's MSP leaders connect, collaborate, and conquer, all powered by the Forza Dash platform, helping MSP vendors work effectively with MSPs and helping MSPs grow. Now, that's because you're diagnosed with stage 4 cancer.
I am. No problems, no signs, no symptoms, feeling as good as I ever had 6 years ago. And
Wow.
my brilliant FNP, who I just saw this morning, that's who I saw on my way to avoid the accident.
FMP?
Yeah, nurse practitioner. She said, I don't like your creatinine level, which is a measure of inflammation of the kidney. And I said, it's 1.08. She said, I knew you'd look, just humor me, go get an ultrasound. And there was a tumor the size of half of a brick sitting on top of my left
God.
kidney. No signs, no symptoms, no pain, nothing. And Stanford, which is where I get all my care, said, we can't believe that she referred you. on a 1.08. She said nobody does
Wow.
that. And
Wow.
but I've had brain tumor. I had a brain tumor that nobody caught. It was caught by accident. Again, no science, so she just said to me after all these years, she said, I don't know what it is with your body, but I'm the kind of the healthiest
Wow.
person that she knows. And yet here it goes. So, and I like living at the edge. I mean, wouldn't have chosen all of this, but the thing that makes life good, the Stoics, are you a Stoic kind of a guy?
I think so.
You like that kind of work, that stuff? They have memento mori, which is remember death.
Mm.
And that is that puts the edge on everything. It's like, don't take yourself so seriously. Don't think you're not going to walk out and the meteor is not going to fall. Don't live your life in denial, which is what discipline is. I'm really a fan of discipline.
Mm.
One of my favorite quotes, and I can't think of the guy, I heard him on Tim Ferriss. He's that, he was a Navy SEAL and now he's a, big guy talker, Jack something or other.
Jocko.
Anyway, yeah, Jacko. And he said, and the thing I really like a lot is that discipline equals freedom.
Yeah.
That was if you want to put something on a billboard. And he said it would be discipline equals freedom.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I go right on.
Mm. You said that at a young age, you knew that you were going to be a helper.
Yep.
Explain that.
Um, well, I was born 48. My dad was just out of the war.
Yeah.
He was a young bombardier, et cetera. And he and my mom married in Kansas, moved to California. And I was the firstborn. And my mom was 20, my dad was 23. And I think from the very beginning, they were farm people and they had that attitude. I mean, they weren't in California, but they were raised that way. So from the very early time, it was help do this, help do that. And I remember even as a little kid, like I have a scar on this hand. It's not the black spot, that's ink because I write so much, but there's a scar here because I was helping in the kitchen. I was cutting something, cutting an apple or something myself at 5 years old. I
Mm.
remember it. And then I slipped and really did a bad
Mm.
cut. Nobody freaks out. Nobody goes to the doctor. Nobody does whatever. And it's fine. I didn't injure anything. But when my grandma came to visit from Kansas 6 months later or something, I was cutting something and she said, to my dad, um, Cynthia's got a big knife. And he said, she knows how to use it.
Mm.
So I think I always had this, I can do it. I want to be there. And it was a kind of a joke in our, as family. It's like, you want to give me a hand? It was like, you better get over here.
Mm.
So I liked that. And I like that in most cultures that make sense, like indigenous cultures, children from the age of whatever learn to make tortillas or tend the fire or hold the babies or braid the hair or, you know, you just help the older people.
Hmm.
So I loved that. So I was the one in my family. 4 years later, a sister was born, another four. They were my babies. We had good care. We didn't have an abusive childhood on that level. Um, I mean, there was a secret abuse, which I'll be happy to reveal,
Sure.
that did change things for me.
Mm.
But it wasn't with my parents. But there was an edge. There was always an edge of I better be good. I better be on it. I better be clean. My room better be good. I better be. So I
Wow.
had this sense of I can do it. So I was the one, I was tying my shoelaces and teaching the kids in kindergarten how to tie theirs. So I just had that. And it was probably ego, probably, but a sense of it. My friends often were the ones with diabetes or the blind girl or
Mm.
the people that had problems. I was attracted in a way almost compulsively to be helpful and to be that. And I kind of joke that, even as a child, like I might be the one that an adult might come up to and saying, "Do you know where the bathroom is?" I just sort of had that vibe. So I ended up in social work through a, you know, circuitous route. But
Mm. You say you always knew that you had to have your room clean and do everything. Is that because discipline was kind of instilled there, or why did you have it? Was it a fear?
um Well, discipline often, I looked up the word discipline. I have on a number of occasions, and
Mm,
from, the original Latin is discipulus, which means a willing student. It was like that was a noun and it meant a student. And it was the definition from etymology.com, which is a person who's willing to study for the sake of their own growth. And that's
hmm,
what a disciple is. It's a willingness. It then moved pretty quickly within a few centuries to harsh discipline, to being making people
mm.
do things. So I think that edge, there was a level of fear. My father would come in and go like, "This place is a God, say no, blah blah blah," and I would, and it wouldn't be that bad, but I would whip it into shape, and then it just became a habit. So I formed a lot of excellent, and being a Virgo, as you know, with
Yes.
your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever. Anyway, so we have. I see you had a daughter. I know. I heard
2
from
daughters.
your own
Yes.
two daughters. Yeah,
Yeah.
congratulations.
Yes.
Like I said, I was careful to avoid that, and then boom, I get a kid.
So let's talk about that. You had a kid in your 50s.
58, he came into my life. He was 4'11" and 95 pounds.
Mm,
He had been my husband when he was forced to retire because of his heart condition. I said, "Don't think you're going to sit around and do nothing. You got to go volunteer." So he was involved in AA and was sponsoring and doing things like that. And he became a big brother. And so Peter, when he was about 8, I guess, became he wasn't a part of my family. He wasn't a part of a fixture, but he and my husband, and he would work with his dad and Peter, and they would, he would give his dad a break so his dad could go to school. And but then his dad got cancer and died when Peter was 12.
mm,
And I happened to be sitting by the bedside in the hospital with his dad and Peter. It just the way it worked out. My husband was in another part of the country. It happened very fast. And I sat with Peter and his dad, and I put my hand on his dad's hand, and Peter put his hand on mine. And I said, "I promise you, he will never go to foster care again," because
mm,
he had been in foster care. It was a rough go
mm.
for the kid. And I just said, thinking, well, we'll find the right family for him. And 19 years later, he's still the right family.
Wow.
And he's 5'6" and 150 pounds. So
They say that too when you go to, rescue a dog, the dog chooses you, right?
that's right. And it was a pretty miraculous find. Um, he was a very odd kid, in terms of all of the trauma he'd experienced,
Mm,
and had been in foster care. And his mother had died when he was 4 and was probably schizophrenic and alcoholic and drug, all that stuff. So I had no idea what I was getting into. Um, but he was walking around all the time and kind of talking to himself. And I thought, ooh, do I have psychosis here? What do I
mm,
do?
mm.
So I asked him what he was doing, and he said, "I'm making up stories." So I said, "Well, um, I said, a girl's got to have some talents. I'm a great typist. If you want to tell me your stories, I'll type them down." And he said, "You do that for me?" And I said, "Sure, I'll be happy to." And so I set up my, Palatino line type, space and a half, 11, blah, 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 got ready to go. And I had no idea what would come out. And he goes like, "Chapter 1, the puzzle begins. The BBC and I'm going like, this is a whole BBC murder.
Wow.
I mean, he's mentioning the Marquis de Sade and Virginia Woolf, and I'm going like, here's this special education 12-year-old who's mentioning Greek mythology, and then I learn who he really is.
Hmm.
So it that definitely informed my life and formed my life. So he and I have an amazing bond. He's a movie maker. He makes incredible films, short films, and would love to have a career in it, but that's hard to do when you're.
Yeah.
But so anyway, he's kind of like the kid I never asked for. I've had a
Hmm.
lot of kids I've never asked for that kind of come through my life,
Hmm.
and glad that they did.
Hmm. Cynthia, describe your husband's passing.
Well, he was 12 years older than me and had, when I met him, he was a hunky 42-year-old. And we were both living in the country, way like off grid, all that stuff as one was doing back then. This was in 78, 79. And I was newly into being the medical social worker at a little clinic for $800 a month. I loved that job. It was great. Um, and he was one of the people that lived way up in the mountains, and he would have to come into the clinic to get crutches or for his kids or whatever was going on. And I just got to know him, and then I learned that he was a professional. So we met that way. What we didn't know is that he had heart problems. But I mean, we built homes together. We backpacked. We were really serious. And a week after we backpacked in the in late, it was about 95, I think, 1995, I guess we have to say that.
Hmm.
Um, uh, he began to have extreme heart pain, and that was his first bypass and triple bypass. And then he recovered, and he really worked hard to recover, and he got it back into work, and he was doing well. And then he had another one. So he became quite disabled, and the pain increased. And it blew apart a lot of things. I became the only breadwinner, the only one managing the money, the only one who could. And he got quite depressed. And and that's when he became he began to get the pattern of being kind of lazy. But then he was doing the AA and doing it, but the pain kept increasing. So in 2022, he was in assisted living because it was too much for him. He was back in Florida to be near his daughter, and he kept thinking he was going to die. I mean, he had 1% opening of his heart. And in Florida, unfortunately, you can't say gay and you can't get an abortion, and you also can't choose to die.
Mm.
So I flew back with him first class, which was good. And spent the last 2 weeks of his life, Christmas and New Year's Eve. He chose the medical aid in dying, which is legal in 9 states. I don't know if you're in Chicago.
No, no, I'm in Florida.
Oh, you're in Florida. Yeah. Oh, so you know. So anyway, you can, and you definitely can. And so we went through the process, and
When you say you went back to California.
back to California. And he was still a resident of California. He'd only been there for a year and a half, to thinking he was going to die out there. But he was up in uh, Englewood, near between south of Tampa. You know where that is.
Yes, I
And
know there.
when Ian hit, it kind of blew things even
Uh,
worse, and assisted
uh,
living got bad. So anyway, it just wasn't working. So I said, I'll bring you back. And he said, I just want to die. I can't live with this pain anymore. And it was awful. I mean, he would just be sitting, and he'd go to stand up to be on his walker, and the pain would shoot up because his heart was so beset with plaque. So we went through the process, and I'm really glad I did, because it was makes me more valuable. And it's you drink the medicine and wait, and it was quite lovely. It was really beautiful.
but you describe it in those last 2 weeks that people came and visited and they said goodbye, so it was
Yeah,
announced, it was wonderful.
yeah. And he knew it was happening, and he kept saying, "When's the big medicine coming? When's the big
Mm,
medicine coming?" Because it came in a FedEx box.
wow.
And
Describe
so
the
that
process. You had to get it medically, you had to go to a doctor, they had to prescribe it?
Yeah, actually, with video. I mean, he was like,
Uh,
so it would have been too much for him to get in the car and drive to the office. So they just video, just like we're doing. And they did an interview, and they had me leave the room so they could ask questions and make sure he wasn't being coerced. He answered all the questions right. In fact, it was great because he said to the doctor, he said, "Wait a minute, I remember you. You're that little redheaded girl who used to sit on my lap when I was Santa Claus for the
Ha!
hospice program." And he said,
Yeah.
"Yeah." He said, "How are your parents?" So he passed all the cognitive tests. And 2 days later, another doctor called, did the same process. This is how they do it to determine that it's appropriate. Why don't you want to live anymore? And he said, the quality of my life is so
Mm.
awful, and I'm on so much pain medication that I'm not even with it anymore. And so they said, terrific, well done. And I, being a medical social worker, got all the paperwork to them within 24 hours. And we ordered the medication, and it came on the Wednesday between Christmas and New Year's. He chose New Year's Eve. And his grandson, who's in his 30s and has had a very rough life and knew about drugs, um, came and helped me, and which was good. And we mixed the medicines and went into with some good mango limeade was a good choice. And I made him a beautiful peach pie with whipped cream, which is one of his favorite things. We watched City Slickers for a while,
Ha!
and um, and then he said, "I'm ready." And I said, "Okay, this is your choice." And he said, "No, I'm ready." And he drank it, and took a while. It sometimes can take up to 2 hours, but the thing that was amazing is he drank it all down, and it was the first time in probably a year that he'd been completely without pain.
Wow.
So he was still alert. Um, a funny thing was he drank out all this stuff, and then he said, "I've got to go to the bathroom." And his grandson said, "Grandpa, you just take the medicine. Don't worry about it." I said, "Honey, we got plenty. You got diapers on. No worry." And he said, "God damn it, I got in." I went, "Okay." I said, "Just take them." And he took him in and he said, "Hurry up, Grandpa." And I said, "Honey, that's nothing you tell an old
No,
man."
no, no,
And we
no.
laughed. And I said, "Just leave him alone." And he said, and he was like, this is my grandson was, he could die on the toilet. I said, "Honey, Elvis did." We laughed. We all laughed. Came back out, sat down another half hour. And then he began to really move into a that transitional place. I mean, I've sat with a few people who've died, and it's a beautiful, beautiful experience. It's what your other interviewee Iris talked about.
Yeah.
Something magical happens. And when you sit with people who have died, particularly by choice or just their time, our own fear leaves us.
Hmm.
I mean, it was just, it was beautiful. And then he was done. And then we called the sheriff and they called the ambulance and every got time of death. And then then the body snatchers come and they're elegant and sweet and kind. And it just feels like then the respect just continues
Hmm.
with that. And we just become patient. I think that's why, the memento mori, which is remember death from the Greeks and the Stoics. Um, it's like, yeah. So I'm really glad to have had that up close and personal experience a few times. So being faced with stage 4 cancer,
Yeah.
um, I don't have any illusions. I mean, I just got back literally a week ago from Stanford, and my cancer is still stable. So I have
Amazing.
another 4 months before I go have another look see, but it wouldn't be like overnight. It would be a few months, when I get it. But my own fear is so much lessened because it's just the inevitable.
Hmm.
I'm gonna have T-shirts made. I'll send you one called, it's said "Too old to die young."
You are. What do you believe happens after we pass, Cynthia?
I don't. I mean, I was raised as a Presbyterian, and we had the what I think of as myths, but it never was angels and liars. This kind of liar and all of that stuff. Uh, But something happens where there's such a consistent, and I listen a lot. You probably have too. I don't know if you've had any near death experience people on your podcast.
Sure have.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a pretty incontrovertible evidence, and these are
Mm,
people that were, I was a neuroscientist and I didn't believe any of this stuff, and then I was
mm,
gone and for
mm,
7 days in a coma, and when I came back, boom, boom, boom. There's something, and it's so consistent that there is a guide, that there is, and so in some ways, that your podcast is about discipline,
mm,
and as we talked about earlier, it's about being a student or a willing learner to be a disciple. So it's like somehow that is really, to me, the shift that occurs. I think that if we are open to whatever could happen, whatever's going to happen, it'll be okay. And I often tell people, I work a lot, I get a lot of doctors refer to me because of my background and my medical awareness and my own experience. And I often say to them, I said, look, if the worst that happens is you just die, and you're a person who's very anxious about your sleep anyway, it's probably the best night's sleep you'll ever had, and
mm.
we laugh, and I say, but what if it is something else? I don't know that we have to work hard to prepare for it. um, That's not why I live a good life and why I'm a good person and why I want to be a better person. It's not why I do that. I like the way it feels now to me to be still be Cynthia, little Cynthia who wants to help people.
Mm,
Um, I really feel that we can all work to be better
mm.
because it feels good to us and it emanates to the people around us. I mean, I want to be more peaceful. I want to be more gentle. I want to be more curious, creative, participatory because it feels good to me in the moment. And then if it results in, hey, I get a better place someplace up with a, I get a better harp. Okay. What do you think happens?
What if discipline wasn't about punishment, but about unlocking your best self? I spent 2.5 years writing Discipline for Greatness because discipline changed my life. And I know it can change yours too. This isn't theory. Inside, you'll find real, practical steps you can use immediately to focus better, build stronger habits, reduce stress, accomplish your goals, and bring more balance to your life. Whether you're trying to get healthier, improve your career, or simply feel more control, this book gives you the framework. Start today. Grab your copy of Discipline for Greatness at joeypinz.com/book. Thank you. Yeah, I'm somewhere stuck between many different areas. I get to talk to so many amazing people. My mother is a very spiritual person, very close to Christ, so she has one particular view, and I, I, I I'm afraid I'm just going to be a fence leaner in this particular area until I get some more clarity, and perhaps before I talk to more people. Cynthia, your book, "The Courage to Trust." Why write it? What do you want the reader to come away from?
Well, it was a interesting phenomenon because I had been doing workshops called Trust, Betrayal, and Forgiveness for a few years and borrowing from, many genres, many authors, many other teachers, and really coming to the place that forgiveness was a process, not an event, and it's
Mm.
something you do every single day, particularly over big stuff. Um, and some forms of forgiveness are like, you're not living in my head rent free, but I never want to fucking see you again,
Ha!
you know? So that's part of it. But I had written just a little description of my workshop, and New Harbinger Publications saw the article online. This was back in 2002 or something, so barely anything was online.
Hmm.
Before the phone. The phone was in 2006. Siri didn't come along to 2011. We act like
Wow.
this has happened forever, but they found me and I got a phone call and she said, I know this sounds odd, but this is a cold call, but this is what acquisition editors do. She said, we want somebody who can write about betrayal and about trust and I went, I don't know that I can write a book, but I've written a lot of workbooks and a lot of things like that. And she said, well, I can tell by your article that you know how to write. It was like this long.
Hmm.
So that was my, how they
Sure.
hook how that they hook you. That's why you write a book. Oh, they think I can write. So
Mm.
I did that. And so the very process was like I sat down and I have a friend who is a developmental editor, and I said I would pay him to to work with me because I didn't know how to write a book. And he'd walked a lot of authors through with, and he said, sure, I'd be happy to. And we started the process. And so I wrote and wrote and wrote, and I sent him stuff, and he'd say, the first chapter says, what is trust? And you haven't answered that question. They're really big on defining things in this
Mm.
book. It's New Harbinger is written by all of their books are written by therapists. They're kind of a workbook style and they have an educational format. And it's for the lay folk. So I said, okay. And I went back and I wrote some more. And he said, these are good anecdotes and I'm saving everything. You still haven't defined trust. He
Mm.
said, and then he said, get away from your damn computer. Take a piece of, take paper and pencil, go sit
Mm.
in your office. He'd been to my place before. And so I sat over there and I just looked at this blank page and my sharp pencil, and nothing happened.
Ha.
Nothing happened. And I looked over at my New World Heritage Dictionary, and I kind of looked around to see if maybe I was cheating, or the camera's on me. And I went over and I got it out and I looked up trust on the dictionary. And the first thing it said was, trust requires you to be independent. That if you are dependent, you can't truly say you trust.
Hmm.
And that one completely informed the book. It just opened that little sentence and that one concept, because it was trust has to be a choice. And so when I wrote the book, I realized that I wrote trust as a skill and trust as a choice. It's not just a feeling.
Hmm.
It's something that, so it's
Skill.
akin to faith. So, we never met. I listened to your podcast or whatever. Do I trust you? I'm telling you a lot of secrets.
Yeah.
I know I'm telling a lot of people a lot of secrets if it makes it through the final cut. And but there's a level of having faith in a positive future, which is, I was going to say, do you have faith in God? What do you have faith in? It's like faith
Hmm.
that things are going to be okay. So I'm going to die, so I'll be okay. You know, I mean, how do you reframe living with uncertainty? So that's more than trust. Faith is something that says, I've been through a lot and I keep waking up. So I'm going to have faith that I'm going to wake up tomorrow. And then I also have some form of faith that if I don't wake up tomorrow, that I will be okay.
Hmm.
When I had my first cards printed, I started my private practice at 85 after working for the county and after working for clinics and after working for all that stuff, the nightmare of all of that. And I knew what I wanted on my card, and it said specializing in happy endings.
Hmm.
And I had some gay friends, and they said, "Oh,
Uh-oh.
honey, do you know what that
Uh-oh.
means?" And
Uh-oh.
I said, "I'm a girl who made it through the
Mm.
'60s. I know what that means.
Uh,
I also know, that I don't like movies that don't have a happy ending. I don't like." And I said, my whole professional life and my wanting to be helpful to people is to create a happier ending,
hmm.
however we define that. So that was kind of where I started. And that's sort of where when I wrote the book, what I ended up really focusing on, the number one issue is to have trust in ourselves, which brings us back to your major topic, which is
Mm.
discipline.
Discipline, yeah. Cynthia, you talked about secrets. Earlier you mentioned a secret reveal that you wanted to disclose.
Well, you know what happened, and it's not like unusual, unfortunately, but I was babysat by an older boy cousin who's 10 years older than me when I was 5, and he tricked me into doing sexual things.
Wow.
Set me up, would give me something, like 5 years old. Oh, look, he gave me something. And then it would be like, well, you took it. So now you got to do what I tell you. And I try to give it back. And he went, no, 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 you can't give it back. So I went through that. And then it would be, I said, I wanted to leave. I tried to leave, but I couldn't figure out the complicated lock on the door. I was 5 years old. And, and he said, well, I'll call your mother, but I'm going to have to tell her what you've been doing. And
Mm.
that just, I don't know who passes out the brochures and the little pamphlet that for all of the pedophiles and child molesters, that they know all of the right things to say. He didn't
Mm.
say he'd kill my animals, but that probably would have been the next.
Wow.
He was that kind of guy. He was already pretty dark.
Mm.
Anyway, so I couldn't tell anybody. And that informs us when we've got a secret. I mean, in the
Mm.
12-step programs, one of the phrases that really rings true is we're only as sick as our secrets.
Hmm. As sick as our secrets.
And somebody said, well, the way my sponsor taught me was we're only sick as the secrets that we keep.
Hmm.
So, in the revelation and being willing to talk about this, much like the whole Epstein files and everything that's coming on, the
Mm.
victims talking about it is freeing up a lot of other people to go to a therapist's office and talk about it. And it informed a lot of my childhood because that also made me wanting to become more perfect
Mm.
because I was afraid of being was it that I'm going to tell you that you're a bad girl. I'm afraid you're a bad person. So it made me be even more rigid. And when I was working at the county and working as in mental health, um, we put on the first for our area. We put on the first child sexual abuse council, and got a big panel together. And we had these really amazing people that were doing the work already and introducing it to us. So this was like in 83, 84. And one of the things that they said was the split often happens that you either become a goody two shoes or a wild child
Hmm.
after sexual abuse. That you'll see that happen. You'll see that, that resistance. You'll see the oppositional stuff. You'll see the, what the fuck, and you can't tell me what to do. And they're picking up
Mm.
cigarettes, and they're tough girls or tough boys, and they're fighting it. Or you become very restricted, and you're always on time, and you never break any rules. And I was the goody two shoes. And so that informed also part of what looks like discipline. But I like the definition of discipline not being fear based.
Mm.
So I was really more restricted and perfectionistic and had to do everything right because underneath it, I kind of felt that I was a bad person.
Hmm.
So that was part of my liberation, is to release that. So I forgave him by getting him out of my head, but I never wanted to see him again. And I did check in with some of the other kids and cousins and whatever, and apparently nothing. I don't know whether I was the only one in the family. He was already pretty damn good at it, I have to tell you.
Wow.
At 15, I don't know what happened to him, but he's gone. He died, and I was happy.
Mm. Mm.
It was weird because he didn't live anywhere near me, and whatever. And I got, as a part of the cousins, I got an email that said that he died peacefully, and he was surrounded by people that he loved, and he was such a wonderful person. And I had this internal tension that I think had been holding on to for 60
Wow.
years, just went, whoa.
You mentioned you're clean and sober, but you're also absent from all sweets as well,
Quit.
correct?
I quit cigarettes in 73, but
Whoa.
that was an easy one, even though everybody was still kind of smoking. And one of my, I love my best friend. I met this guy, and he was wonderful, but everybody in his family smoked. And he said, I can't stand cigarettes, and I won't be with a smoker. And I was cooking that day, and kept having to go back to the store to get more tortillas for the enchiladas. And I kept forgetting to buy cigarettes. So in March of 73, some point, and I always say I traded cigarettes for kisses.
Huh.
So that was easy. That one was just, and I didn't really want to continue. I knew it was foolish,
Mm.
but it was still fun. It's the one thing I miss, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
'Cause it calmed you down?
You know, what do I do with my hands? Like,
Right.
were you ever a smoker?
No, but you could see what I do now. I write and I still kind of fidget with the pen when I'm writing. Yeah, I still kinda have something in my hands. Yeah.
It'll tell you what. Here, I have this. I'm going to show you this. This is like, you can't read it, but it's just a rolled piece of paper. So my kid at 12, his dad smoked, and I kept finding these little rolled up paper towels, and they were a little singed at the end. And I said, Peter, are you pretending to smoke? And he said, oh yeah. And I said, and he was always afraid we're going to send him to foster care. So it was like,
Aw.
and I said, just drop the act. Just tell me what you're doing. He said, yeah, I do it. He said, it calms me down. It's like my dad. And I went, okay. So one day I was laying on the couch. He was laying on the floor, and he had one of these, this kind of thing. And we passed it back and forth, He's germophobic. We had to switch it. But so every once in a while, when I'm stuck,
Wow.
so I have on here a quote from Cheryl Strayed. Cheryl Strayed from,
No.
she wrote the book Wild and Tiny Beautiful Things. Oh, she's amazing. Get Tiny Beautiful Things. You'll love it.
Okay.
It's a collection of essays. She's an advice columnist, it's Dear Sugar. So it's but Tiny Beautiful Things. Anyway, and one of the things was, I want to write, and I try to write, and I feel like it's not good enough. And what if nobody, blah, blah, blah. And she said, honey, I'm going to give you a piece of advice. Just write like a motherfucker.
Mm.
And so that's what I have on here, is write like a motherfucker.
Good for
So I
you.
can, every once in a while, it still feels damn good.
I watched the talk that you gave, Cynthia, to a group there about preparing for, your first question was, everybody have a will? And it was great conversation, great feedback there. Do you do these kinds of talks often?
Actually, that came from I thought I was going to be president for life for this nonprofit that I've been doing called Friends of Hospice, and we became Friends of Health, but it's the same thing, and we help people. Perfect, right? Fun.
Nice,
We fund things,
nice.
and And there was just so I pulled together this I got a grant to pull together this conference, and we had, like, 100 people, like, 50 people online and 80 people in the in the conference. And I just lined up all those people. So in the talk I made a reference to the fact you start with a fiduciary, and then then the
Mm,
legal attorney, and like, you need like 10 or 12 people to help you die well, to be neat and tidy and orderly, and to get so you're and my main thing was, let's leave a legacy instead of a mess.
hmm,
I don't know if you've ever helped after somebody died. You walk into their house, you have no idea what to do with the stuff. You don't know if anything's of value. It's difficult. It's really difficult. And then if they forgot to do a will, then you've got chaos and maybe fights, and it's not a gift to the family. So I gave that talk. I was invited to do that by somebody because they had seen the conference and they thought, wow, can you? And so I just tried to replicate the 10 people in that thing. So no, I hadn't done that before, or I haven't done it since. I mean, if I lived in a bigger place, I might, there might be a variety of places, but there's 85,000 people in my county, is Mendocino County. We used to be famous to be part of the Emerald Triangle. Now that pot's legal, it's all that's gone. But
yeah, yeah.
so anyway,
You did
so
a
that
great
was it.
job.
I
You
thank you. Appreciate it.
yeah.
I'm glad. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something.
Yeah, yeah, and everybody was real interactive with it too. It was, it's an important topic, a topic, like you said, people don't want to talk about, but it's very important.
Yep. Memento mori. We're going to keep
Mhm.
coming back to that.
Yes, we are. Has there been anything in the last month or so, Cynthia, that you changed your mind on?
Well, a couple months ago, I mean, I've been ambivalent about another book. I mean,
Mm,
for years, I've been trying to write another book, and New Harbinger either was interested, and then my acquisition editor lost her mind and literally went away. I think it was Burning Man. I'm not sure what happened.
whoa.
Literally, she came back and she said, "Did you send me something?" And I went, "Yeah, I sent you the proposal you wanted." She said, "Oh," and then she was fired. And then, anyway, so that all happened. So since all this time, I have done other my book has become audio. I was supposed to do the audio for the book. They wanted me, they loved my voice. But I ended up getting my cancer diagnosis right there in July of 2016, right when they were recording it. So, and then I've done some other guided stuff, and I write on Substack, which is fun. But the hunger to write more, to make a difference. I mean, it's not going to make me $1 million, but it might make a difference for some other people.
Mm,
And so I got advice. So I kept going, I want to write this book and I want to collect my little morsels and make a thing. So I got this woman who's from Chicago, and she said, I hope I hope your friend who referred me, I paid her to consult with me about what books are needed. She said, I hope people, I'm an in your face consultant. She said, I'm going to tell you right now, your book, your writing is lovely. She said, but AI can write like you do, because you're
mm,
going, you write about compassion and you write about Brene Brown and you quote this person and you quote that person. And she said, AI can do that. She said, but what AI can't do, she said, "You're a badass." She said, "I can tell." She said, "I'm a badass consultant. You're a
mm,
badass therapist." She said, "I better see badass in the title." She said, "But I'll tell you right now, what AI cannot write, what AI cannot do is what you and I are doing right now, which is person to person."
mm,
She said, "You've been doing this for 50 years. You've been living longer. You're willing to talk about all of the stuff you've been through, including your sexual abuse or including the violence or the alcoholism and your own addictions." And she said, that's what the world is hungry for. So I changed my mind about trying
hmm.
to write um, a book that had gentle encouragement. And now I'm writing this book that said, just get off your ass and do it.
And your process is to storyboard, it's to outline. How do you write?
She said, and this is really good advice. She said, don't think in terms of outline. Don't think in terms of trying to create a structure. She said, I want you to think, not even in terms of chapters. She said, I want you to create silos of content. So I've got silos on addiction,
Hmm.
silos on codependency, silos, a silo on, well, like, like I have a whole, field about getting things done, and, one that's just specifically really could be about discipline,
Hmm.
about the importance of this. And so as they keep appearing, and she said, "What do you tell your clients?" And I'll tell my clients, "I'm sorry, but your husband's a passive aggressive personality disorder
Mm,
and he's not going to change.
mm.
And he's lying to you and he's making it's promises, 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 excuses, excuses, excuses." So a couple of the so I wrote one of the chapters that was really fun so far. I mean, these are just silos, right? I just like the idea of dumping stuff into silos
Right.
and anecdotes. And the things that really drive people to therapy about relationship work is usually not the person who's driving them crazy. It's the person who wonders if they are crazy
Mm,
and they're involved with a narcissist or their parents or, whatever, passive aggressive, addictions, avoidance. And these are all people. And so somehow it takes a while to find out who somebody is. And by then you feel committed or you have a child with them. And so that's the mess. So I'm writing this so I have it in my computer as badass book. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's informed my voice in a way, my writing voice that is much more akin to my speaking voice, so
mm.
that's something I changed my mind about, that
That's an
it's
important
okay.
distinct it's an important distinction that you have to write different than you speak.
Yeah. Well, it is. And it's sort of, I'm writing to topic as opposed to writing to you.
Mm. Plus, when we speak, we can use inflection and we can pause and we can,
Yep.
um
So we do it. I watched this fabulous poet, Kay Ryan. She's an amazing poet. And I watched her read, and she said, "I never know quite what to do with italics." She said, "Do I like talk in a squeaky voice or do I
mm,
lean?" She said, "What do I do?"
italics, yeah,
But it's like that. We can hear the squeaky voice, so
sure.
we can hear the lean, we can hear that. The other thing I changed my mind about was like the beginning of the year. I did, and I've done it before, but I quit swearing.
Mm,
No, none of it. Like not even the S word or the F, none of those. And it was like, it was a good discipline. It's a very good discipline. Part of what in preparation for you was I wrote that acknowledgement of a problem is the first step towards even decide what we want to do, right?
mm,
What teaching do we want to follow? And it wasn't that I felt like I was swearing too much. Everybody's swearing a lot. They're writing swearing, filled with it. But I thought, you know what? I'm using those words instead of something
right.
bigger. So at the beginning of the year, I swore off, and within a week, and I was putting quarters in a jar. Peter was saying, "Oh, quarter in a jar. Okay, quarter in a jar," and I had like about $4, and then I didn't have any more. It was good, and it's a good discipline. It really is. Not to gossip,
Mm,
not to listen to gossip. It's a good discipline. Tricky. So I was participating, I was active, noticing how much everybody, even my clients in their 80s and everybody, not like we're dropping F bombs or whatever. And then about a couple months ago, I realized I felt restricted. Maybe the badass book kind of brought it
right.
up, but there is a level at which, every time I swear now, I go, "Oh, that feels so good." So
Because
I
you're being
changed my
selective with it. You're just not being
yeah.
you're not overdoing it, yeah.
I when so I have quit a lot of things. Quitting is a big topic. Often that it comes up with discipline. Willpower is an old-fashioned word, but I think it's an important word. Um, the whole question of, do we even have free will? Well, I can at least have free will to swear or not swear. I know I have a choice. I have a free will to smoke cigarettes or not smoke a cigarette.
Mm,
When it gets to the place where I don't have the will, I don't have the discipline, I can't quit. I love the quote from Mark Twain. He said, "Quitting smoking is the easiest thing in the world. I've done it hundreds of times myself."
current generation, when they write, they tend to use a lot of emojis for emphasis, for whatever it may be. Your thoughts on emojis?
I think they're great. And I also am encouraging people to do more reaching out.
Mm,
That some of the isolation, the invitation to be in person, or at least this much, what we have here
mm,
today.
mm,
Um, so much gets lost, and they'll say, "Well, like I've been talking to my friend or whatever." I said, "Are you talking to them? Or are you texting
mm,
them?" And they'll go, "Oh,
mm.
I'm just texting, DM texting." And I went, "It's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same." And so sometimes I suggest people use emojis, both, particularly if they're humorous, not to confuse people. But if it's or just a thumbs up or an encouragement or a heart,
Mm,
and
mm,
we can
mm.
go the little things.
Sure.
Um, but I also think it's an invitation. It's a, I'm thinking about you. It means something. If I get a little emoji just from somebody I hadn't heard from a while, it says they're thinking about me.
Right.
And then I can text back and said, been a long time. And they went like, yeah, maybe after the holiday, whatever it is, but it's an invitation. And it's people are afraid of rejection. When I wrote my book later on, I thought if I could have had a watermark, like on every single page, the courage to trust is the courage to face rejection.
Mm,
That's what that's what trust means. In the face of the fact that you might go like, you know what, Cynthia, fun to get to talk with you, but not for prime time. I have to face that. And I have to be willing to say, okay, it's worth putting aside some time, some prep time, listening to your lovely podcast. It was a gift. Nothing else happens. And talking with you, but I don't know what's going to happen. So that's facing uncertainty. But I also know that you could reject me, and you know that I could reject you. I
right.
mean, this is this is what trust means. That's why it's a choice. It's not just this
Mm,
free floating feeling. Oh, I trust them. I hitchhiked for years, and they went like, "You're hitchhiking. What's the matter with you?" And I went like, "Oh, I trust people."
mm.
That's really wasn't the appropriate verb.
It is amazing how that's completely gone. Yeah, when I was a kid, my father would pick up hitchhikers all the time, and I would just get used to it. He had a pickup truck, and he would just kind of point back there, and they'd go in the back, and yeah, it's just a very different time. So, Cynthia, I started my business back in the '90s, and I was working way too hard, and 1460 nowadays. You're no stranger to this, and so I was not treating myself well, poor diet, poor food, etc. decisions. And so I'm at the doctor. I'm at 340 pounds, she tells me. So I had gained all this terrible weight. I knew I was getting big. Didn't think I was a size 46-inch waist. I'm now a
Who was was
32.
was your wife buying the pants?
It's fun. Yeah, it's funny. She just kind of went along with it, and uh, yeah, it was a very different time. But the doctor says to me, if you don't lose this weight, you're not going to see your daughter graduate. So my daughter was just born. So my wife was very preoccupied with the newborn. So of course that didn't, she said that the doctor said that to motivate me, but it didn't motivate me. It got me angry. I guess ultimately it did motivate me, but so I spent the next 6, 7 months, lost about 130 pounds, kept it off. And when people ask how, I always say discipline, like you've alluded to it. I'm certainly not the king of discipline. I fall short in many areas, but I do feel it can be used as a framework, focus, willpower, routine, etc. So we've talked about it a little bit, but what does what does discipline mean to you, Cynthia Walls?
Cynthia Wall says that discipline is freedom. First of all, discipline equals freedom. I mean, that is the secret, because if I'm good with my money, then I'll have money to do fun stuff with, or to be generous with, or whatever. I mean, I have the freedom. If I'm back on Weight Watchers, I lost 45 pounds in 2000. I was a backpacker. I was, country girl. I don't eat sugar. I gave up marijuana in 85, and then I thought, oh, well, this will take care of my weight. Well, I just switched it over, and I just began to double down on the fun foods, the
Mm,
careless eating like you were talking about.
mm.
And then one time I got on the scale, and it was like just grazing 200, and I went, oh no. And I'd been like I'm not that big. I mean, I'm not that tall or anything, but I've always been really muscular. I mean, I was like the person they would say, "Hey, Cynthia, come help us." Literally, I help carry engines. I mean, I was that
Wow.
kind of girl. I just was always kind of a very male identified physical specimen, backpacked, didn't complain. I was tough. And then I had a car accident, and that threw me off. Um,
Mm,
and then I began to, my body became something I couldn't just manipulate, and I gained weight, and I did all that. And that was like in the 70s. So yoga, I discovered yoga, or yoga discovered me, sort of like,
mm,
the dog we talked
mm.
about, it's like who chooses who. So I got to a yoga class with a friend's help, and I went from, hello, I'm Cynthia, I have a bad back, to doing back bends and headstands within 2 months. And it was like, whoa, my body can respond. So that was a discipline. That was like my teacher. Again, to the discipline is not punishment, it's not restriction, it's not beating myself up. Discipline is the willful choice. What it means to me is the willful choice to follow that which feels smart, that which either intuitively or spiritually, or the doctor tells me, or the judge tells me, somebody tells me you better quit, blah, blah, blah. I'm listening to that. So that's what discipline means to me.
Hmm.
And then it allows me to, I mean, however you lost weight, you just didn't make it up. You looked at some kind of article, you do some kind of program, or you looked at what somebody else did. You figured out what to eat and not eat. I mean, you weren't paying attention. And then, so the piece that my little piece that I wrote for you here, it says that that acknowledgement of a problem is the first step, whether we're feeling powerless or ignorant, weak, or just merely stunned. I
Mm.
mean, that's what the word stupid means, is like, boom, you get hit. Oh man, that's what you wake up and you go like, 340 pounds, man, that's stupid. That's stupid. I'm not stupid.
Hmm.
Joey Pinz is not stupid.
Hmm.
So, woke you up, right? So awareness is that first step. And then at that moment when we know we need to act, and that's the first step. But the second one is to, what do I do? What's the most efficient way of handling this problem? And then what do I do? And then it might take days or weeks, months, or even years to know, but always asking higher power, best friends, our doctor, how did you do it? You know, that's the thing I love about the 12 step programs. And I wasn't super active in them. I mean, my husband was, that's how he got sober. I use the material. I've attended lots of meetings, and I certainly work with a lot of people in my practice who've got, decades. Um, and as they say, you know what, there was always somebody I could call, and I would say, I'm about ready to dive into the pound cake, or I'm in the whiskey aisle, help me. I mean, there's somebody there to support us. And I don't know how you managed to lose those gobs of weight to go from 46 to 32,
Hmm.
but I think you had help along the way, guides, teachers,
Certainly.
cookbooks. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. And it's not like you identify being a bad person or good person, but I really identify. I mean, the other thing besides being helpful is I always knew I was smart. I didn't think I was pretty. I knew I wasn't popular. I knew I was
Hmm.
really uptight and a goody two shoes, but I knew I was smart. So there's a saying we hear a lot, that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. But I read in a Shambhala Sun Buddhist magazine one time, this quote popped out that said, "It is the height of foolishness to believe that repetitive behavior will produce different results."
Hmm.
And I went, I can live with being crazy, right? I'm insane is kind of cool, but foolish, oh no,
Hmm.
no, no, no. That's an insult. You're foolish. And
Hmm.
I went, that's denying reality. That's
Hmm.
being a fool. It's right there in front of me. And I'm acting like it's not real. So that's the other thing. I think discipline is as a refusal of being a fool.
Hmm.
I don't want to lie to myself. You're familiar with denial, the don't even notice I am lying.
Hmm. It's interesting you say fool, that how I have a similar reaction to the word lazy. It seems to me it's one of the most damaging. If somebody's lazy, that means they know how to do it. They want to do it, but they just don't. Maybe they don't want to. They have the potential, they have the knowledge to do it, but they just don't do it. To me, perhaps that's synonymous with being a fool, being lazy.
Yeah, it is. And they're both kind of fear based.
Yeah.
I mean, see, I'm a bit, I'm speedy. You can tell that.
Mm.
I'm not like, I don't shoot math, I promise. Never did. I was, I'm not wired. If you met both of my sisters, then you'd know where this is how we are.
I see.
But what is really true at the deepest part of this is like, it feels really good to accomplish.
Mm.
And it doesn't feel good. We're beating ourselves up. If we're thinking of ourselves as lazy or foolish or I know better, but I mean, I have this big, I have clients that come in, they go like, I know I said yes, but I'm sorry. I went,
Mm,
good. No yes butting. Because if it's true, if it's yes, there's no but. So
that's for sure.
when you got on the scale and the doctor said, you want to see your daughter, you want to see your daughter to graduate? I mean, all of a sudden the scales fell from your eyes
Hmm,
and the light came on and you had awareness. And then you had to figure out what to do next.
right.
Some of the things that people say that I almost want I will fire people from my practice gently, but I'll just say, you know what, I don't think what we're doing is working, because you come in every week or 2 weeks saying, I really tried to not drink this week, or I really tried to
Mm, mm,
write on my book, or I really tried to go out for a walk. And I went, what's really going on here? And they went, well, it's like, I know what to do, I just can't make myself do it. And I went, there's no, you're hiring me
mm,
to make you, I mean, okay. And I actually will say to people, you say you can't walk, let's go for a walk. I have a hill right outside. I live in the country and I have a hill right outside my house that would be, you and I would both be like
mm,
this. Okay. And I said, we're going for a walk. I don't have the right. I said, no yes buts. Okay. I actually had to put my hands at her back and push her up. It said there's a sign that says the end. I said, you're going to the end. I literally my hand was at her back. We were doing like baby steps and she was panting. She got to the top and she touched that sign and she just said, and that started, she began to walk 3-5 miles a day.
wow.
But so
Hmm,
sometimes we need that literal
you need
push.
a push.
And
Yeah.
whether that doctor making you get on the scale, it's easy to not get on it. I know I should probably, but yes, but
Hmm,
so that's what discipline means a lot to me. And I said, so when we're really ready to act, the second is, what exactly is the most efficient course?
hmm,
That's the smart part. That's not being foolish about it. Okay, I'm ready to stop being lazy. But do I get up and multitask, or do I pick one thing to do and do what I love Cal Newport's work about deep work. Are you familiar with that?
no.
He said, and so the piece that I sent you just recently that mentioned discipline and willpower and the rest of it was, he said, you know what? Most of us, we create this to-do list. It's a choker, right?
Hmm,
We get up in the morning and I've got everything from cleaning out my gutters, or, leaf blowing, as you have to do in Florida all the time, um, to remembering somebody's birthday, to I want to get ready for the podcast, or maybe I should write my own book, or
hmm,
and we have like this long list. And he said, don't think of it as a to-do list. Think of it as a wish list. And from that, it's a menu. Select one item. So this can help break laziness. It can help infuse discipline, the desire to do something. And I go like, what's Mark Twain again was, you know what, if you got to eat a frog, eat it first thing in the morning. And if you have to eat two frogs, eat the biggest one first. But it's like writing on my book, like the morsels that I write, that I produce every, couple of weeks. I love them. I dive into them. And I actually have a friend and a paid editor that helps me polish them. And it's serious writing. I'm very proud of them and they're lovely. But this badass book is all on me.
hmm.
And it's a big frog. It's a big fucking frog.
Good
This
for
is
you.
a opportunity to say
Yes.
that word here,
Emphasize.
um, because it is. And so when I write my list, if I go, some of these things are time sensitive. They've got to be. And so the advice, and it's really wise, is you got the to-do list. It's just a wish list. It's a menu. Go down, pick one or two that maybe are timely or that keep calling to you, and then go to your appointment, however one does your calendar. I prefer paper, and block off that time.
Hmm,
Turn your phone off, put a sign on your door if you need to. And for 90 minutes, he said 30 minutes minimum, but 90 minutes is best. Just let magic happen. let inspiration. So we're waiting for inspiration to write or exercise or walk. I'm waiting to be inspired to. I kept being on the reason I'm back on Weight Watchers now. Um, it's an inexpensive app and it's really handy because it's no denial, man. So I'm back on it and I've lost 5 pounds in the last, month just by not eating that handful of nuts or the
Right.
extra dates or the whatever. And I was thinking about Thanksgiving and it's like, I don't need to be on Ozempic to know that I'm not going to be jamming extra food down me, but it'll be fun. It'll be a day of celebration, but it's not going to be, it doesn't feel good to be stuffed and sick.
It doesn't.
And that's what you began to learn, Mr. 340.
No.
I think you began to realize that food really wasn't helping my stress level at all.
Mm-mm. What motivates you, Cynthia?
Um, Other people's needs. External motivation can be, I'll get an invitation like, hey, you can write.
Mm,
I can tell you can write. Would you write a book for us? That motivated me. Um, I can get a phone call, the invitation to participate on your podcast that you were looking for guests. That motivated me to think about it, to do more, to do. So that moves me. Motivation is movement.
yes.
That's what it means, literally. And then I listen to that still small voice. I have a candle that I'm show you here, my little candle.
Mm.
And it says, can you see that? What it says?
No.
It says courage. And on the other side of that coin, which I can glue on, says you are not alone.
Hmm.
So the other thing that motivates me is the feeling that either it's maybe I've got a call to do something that might be, it's not like a bearded guy somewhere, but the muse. Um, or it could be, it's somebody's birthday and she's been going through a hard time. So I'm going to get my beads out. I'm going to do something. I know she loves purple. So that motivates me. So, and the other one is dope slaps, getting on the scale and having it be up to 178, 179. It was almost 180. And I went, oh, I remember this.
Hmm. Not again.
I remember this. And I went, what worked in the past? And I went, counting points in the case with Weight Watchers. And that worked. And then I had a little scale I could do it. And I went like, well, how much does it cost to join Weight Watchers? $10 a month for the first 2 or 3 months. And that's really, I only want to lose another 10 pounds. It's not like I need to get down
Hmm.
skinny, but I'm on so many medications. Excuse me, I lost you, didn't I?
No.
Oh, I didn't? Okay. Oh, I see. There's a block here. Um, that I was aware that I was creeping up, but I was in denial. It wasn't that bad. And, it wasn't, and it was still going, but I'm much happier at 160, 165. And my heart, because of all the medicine I'm on, I've got secondary side effects that affect my heart.
Hmm.
So I'm on, and I went, you know what? For every pound of fat, this is an interesting fact. I think it's true. I was taught that by a doctor. There's 4 miles of blood vessels, capillaries, arteries, veins that have to feed every pound of fat.
Wow.
And so if you lose 10 pounds, you've lost 40 miles
Hmm.
of that your heart doesn't have to push. So that motivated me.
So, given that motivation of kind of impact of, like you said, like meeting the needs, how do you measure success, Cynthia?
Um, well, for me, it's like it doesn't have to be finished. For me, success is in the motivation. I can feel successful if I just write a couple paragraphs on my badass book. I feel, and success to me feels like I have a moment of completion. And I don't know who determined this, but it feels true. I remember Tony Robbins, years ago on the old audio cassette tapes. I used to have a half-hour commute up and down the coastal roads, and if you've ever been here, you know what that means. It's not like where you are. It's easy. Everything's flat. This is
Yes.
like, I mean, I went off the edge twice. Let's put
Wow.
it that way. Um, Not on purpose, but I was listening to Tony Robbins, and he said every time you complete something, I mean, really complete it, you get a little burst of energy. And he was citing some other person, I don't know who it was, And he said, and the example he gave was like, you write out, you got the bills, and you get them all stacked up on your desk, and you're ready to go, and you even write out some checks, and then you leave it there, and you feel like, okay, well, I'll come back, I'll do it tomorrow. And he said, you will. He said, but if you push through that last 10 minutes and you finish writing the checks, and you put them in the envelopes, and you put stamps on the envelopes, and you take them, put them out in your mailbox or in your car to mail, you get a burst of energy, and you feel like doing something else.
Hmm.
And I experienced that as success. It's a feeling. It's a feeling of equanimity, kind of. There's a
Hmm.
peacefulness, but I also feel good about myself. I feel like, yeah, you go, girl. And maybe I'll sweep the floor. I mean, it's like, you get all the dishes done and you're soaking a pan, and you walk away. But if you go back, a little bit later, and then you scrub it out or put baking soda in and boil it, which is great, if, by the way, if your
Hmm.
pans ever get stuck. Um, and you finish it up, and then you kind of feel like wiping off the counters and sweeping the floor and shaking out the rug. I mean, there's a level of completion, even just, I'm going to write for 15 minutes today. And I do that. There's a level of, yeah, success.
Hmm.
So that's, to me, kind of, I think. I hadn't thought about it, but thank you for the question. What about you? How do you do?
It changes every day. Yeah.
Mhm.
My daughters still love to talk to me. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. Amazing. I talked to one of them yesterday, just wonderful, so it doesn't have to be this huge kind of Everest thing. It can be small victories. And here's the great news, Cynthia, there's no wrong answer.
There's a lie.
That's true. Difference between a lie and a wrong answer. I mean, you could lie to yourself and say it's a success when I eat a cupcake, uh, or you could say, or it could be something similar. That's very interesting. A lie and a wrong answer. What's the difference?
Well, it depends on the question, doesn't it, darling?
What's wrong and what's a lie? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Two
I
plus two
mean,
equals
if it's not,
five.
I would say it won't be factual.
Right.
Maybe there's some planet where that does equal five. What I'm talking about is if it's an incomplete truth, if it's an omission,
Ah,
if it's a, wrong answer, somebody says, how you doing? And I say, fine.
I see.
And I really mean, and that's fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional is what the quote is from a lot of programs. But if I say, I'm doing really well, thank you for asking, and then went, no, I really want to know, how did your test come out? I mean, there's a level at which
Mm,
part of an answer implies that there was a question, and it almost implies, either if I'm asking myself, I can lie to myself.
mm.
I can get on the scale and say, oh, yeah, that 178, I think it's just water weight. I had a piece of pizza.
Want to show your love for discipline, inspiration, and the Joey Pinz podcast? Now's your chance. Introducing the brand new Joey Pinz merch store, where style meets discipline. Choose from premium apparel, cozy hoodies, stylish hats, durable bags, and your new favorite coffee mug, all featuring the iconic Joey Pinz logo. Perfect for podcast fans, discipline enthusiasts, or as unique gifts for friends and family. Every purchase supports the Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations podcast, helping us continue to inspire greatness and promote positive change. Visit joeypins.com/store today and wear your discipline proudly. Joey Pinz merch. Wear it, share it, and live it. Yes, yes, yes. That's why I liked philosophy and other courses like that, because there was really no wrong answers. It was all like kind of your interpretation and art, and um, perhaps I live in the gray a little bit versus the black and white. I'm not quite sure. I'm not a Virgo like yourself, so maybe that's it.
What are you?
After knowing me for an hour, what do you think I am?
I would say somewhere pretty even, either Libra or Pisces or something, maybe, but I don't know. This is not my game.
It's not mine either, but I'm a water sign. I'm a Cancer. I'm a
You're a Cancer.
late
But you
Julian.
are, yeah, you're kind of a a home guy.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
got those claws can hold too. You look like a hugger. I'm sorry you're not here
I
having a good
am a
time.
hugger. I am a hugger. Oh, Cynthia, I was looking forward to this. I thank you so much for your time. An absolute delight. If anybody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Email, I think. See, it's Cynthia at cynthiawall.com. CYNTHIAWALL.com. It's my website. You can go on there and take some fun quizzes and look at some of my writing.
And you're on LinkedIn, Cynthia Wall. You're on Facebook, Cynthia Wall, and you are on Substack, Cynthia
Yeah.
Wall S CSW at Substack.
LC,
Wonderful.
licensed clinical social worker.
LC, yes,
Yeah,
licensed.
we work hard to get that license,
Good
which
for
means I
you.
can
Good
bill
for
for
you.
Medicare, Medi-Cal,
Ah,
insurances, and which is great because virtually all of my clients are under some kind of insurance. I mean, they've worked hard for it, or they've had, they're struggling. A lot of people on disability. I
mm,
work a lot with people that have, the kind of problems that derail them, but they're my heroes. These are my beloveds.
mm,
I think the biggest thing, and I want to just mention this too, that many years ago by accident, I was invited just to host really a group of bereaved parents.
hmm.
Somebody came from out of the area and said, I'll be happy to do this for you. And it's called the Compassionate Friends. If this can make it in, it might be very helpful for some of your listeners.
Very good.
It's an international group. People are the Compassionate Friends, and then you can look them up. And it's a group, it's a support group, not a therapy group, but a support group for anybody who's lost a child,
Hmm.
parent, grandparent, step parent, sibling. Um, and like I said, it was in my office, and the fellow came and he got the group going. And in my little town, and we're talking like 8,000 people for the whole coast, we just spread the word just very quickly. And I was involved in hospice, and that's why people thought I might know. And I went, no, but he can come here. This will be great. I mentioned to a couple of my clients, 15 people showed up,
Wow.
like within 24 hours. Boom, 15 people came. And we met every month for over 30 years. I helped to co facilitate
Wow.
that group. And if I talk about the heroes of my life and the people who've taught me the most, it's the people that choose to go on. I don't know, we can't, it's way beyond words like discipline or willpower to choose to go on. I don't even want you to go there, Joey, or think
Mm,
about it.
mm,
But, what does it mean? Why are you living? What motivates you? Well, your daughters motivate you. And what happens if? And I look at some people lose their onlys,
mm,
or they'll have, oh, thank God you've got two children, at least just like, oh, yeah, right. No. And so I think that doing that kind of work, which you couldn't pay me to do,
mm,
I mean, it's totally volunteer work and that awareness. And I just feel like I look at people who have faced so much worse than anything I can do. And I really want everyone to know that out there, there is somebody that can help you, somebody who can lead you. They're not gurus, but you can be a disciple to, whether it's a 12-step program, a grief group, the doctor,
mm,
your personal trainer, the yoga teacher, the friend that says, I'll go for a walk with you. I mean, discipline is about surrendering
mm,
ego. Discipline to me is freedom because I'm not lying to myself. I'm not giving half assed answers. And I'm not afraid of what life brings me because I have watched so many people handle, like I'm going to cry, handle so much worse than anything
mm,
I've had to go through.
mm.
And I go, if they can do it, then I can borrow maybe some strength from them. So that's what motivates me.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Cynthia, thank you so much for your time. Next time I'm in your area, perhaps we can get a cup of tea.
Oh, absolutely, honey. I'll make you I've got kick-ass coffee. I've got great stuff and a lot of herbal tea too, if that's what you prefer. And we'll go
Fantastic.
for I'll walk you up the hill.
That'll be great. I can't wait. Cynthia, thank you so
Okay.
much. You be well.
You too, darling. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pin's Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information: the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Disciplined Conversations.